Hey, welcome to the Summit Host Hangout podcast where you'll learn how to plan, strategize, and launch your profitable online summit. No influencer status necessary. I'm your host, Krista from Summit in a Box, and we are currently in a series about summit speakers. And today in episode 136, we're changing gears a little bit to talk more to speakers than to hosts. Although hosts, I do think this will be helpful for you to know as well. But we're going to talk about how to decide whether you will speak at a virtual summit. So hosts, you can know what speakers should be looking for when they're deciding whether or not to participate in your event. Honestly, until earlier this year, I always went with the gut feeling to decide whether or not I was going to speak at a summit, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. It was when I hosted a summit back in March and was kind of reflecting on the speakers who really were getting great results and enjoying themselves versus the ones who weren't, that I realized a lot of this. So for example, the few who weren't willing to promote, I think there were 3 out of 40 speakers who didn't promote. I remember wishing they would have just said no to my pitch if they weren't willing to support it. But then I realized I've done the same thing. I've said yes to a speaking opportunity because I'm a yes person and I felt like I should, but really I should have said no for the host's sake because I wasn't able to show up for them as well as they probably wish their speakers did. So today we're going to cover what questions to ask yourself before agreeing to speak at a virtual summit, both for your sake and the sake of summit hosts out there. And we are going to talk in terms of 5 different areas to look at, including the host, your availability, the fit of the event, the likelihood that you'll benefit, and your desire to participate. So I have a whole bunch of questions that I think you should be asking yourself. Definitely a longer thought process than you're probably used to, but I really think this is going to help. It's really helped me a lot so far since I've implemented this about a month ago as of recording this episode. So let's start by talking about how to make this decision based on the host, because I personally see this as the most important thing. Everything else can be perfect, but if I don't jive with a summit host, it's just not going to work. I'm not going to want to support them or be excited to support them. On the other hand, even if the event isn't a totally perfect fit, but I love the heck out of the host, I might just choose to say yes anyway. So that's why I want to start here. So there are a few questions I recommend asking yourself from the standpoint of thinking about the host. So first is, does the host align with my values? And this can be values across every spectrum of what the word could mean. Social justice, it could be in terms of, strategies that you agree with versus not. Like maybe they like bro marketing and you're like, heck no to the gross stuff. Like all kinds of values you want to be looking at. Does the host align with that? Also look at, do they value their speakers or is it just a list grab? And you can usually tell this through the pitch and the requirements and things like that. So make sure that you can tell that they care about you getting results and they don't just care about your email list. For example, you don't want to see that they require you to have a certain email list size or they're not going to let you promote a freebie or anything like that. So make sure they value their speakers. Next, look at, do they seem to know what they're doing? And I place this judgment fully on their pitch. So for example, yesterday I got a pitch in Instagram DMs that was basically, hey Krista, would you be interested in being part of my virtual event? I don't have any followers here because I don't use this platform. By the way, this is my name. And that's all the pitch said. I've never met you before. I have no idea what your event is about. Like, to me, that's like, I do not want to be a part of this event. So I place a lot of judgment on the pitch, but the same goes for emails. If I'm not given enough information up front, if they can't answer my questions, if I can't tell they are super organized by the pitch email I get, I'm going to say no. Part of this for me, I guess, is probably selfish. I'm like, well, if you haven't even bothered to learn from my content related to summits, and yet you're asking me to speak on a summit about summits, like there's just something wrong there. But no matter what you actually teach, you can tell a lot about a host by what is in their pitch email, how well they can answer any questions you have, and, really whether they give you enough information to have to ask a whole bunch of questions. They should be giving you all the information you need right up front. So look at, do they seem to know what they're doing? And then the last thing I look at related to the host is, are expectations clear and reasonable? So do I know exactly what's expected of me and when? And is that a reasonable thing for them to be asking for? For example, is this person brand new to me and they think I'm going to send 3 emails to my email list? That's not going to happen. Even more than 1 email for me doesn't really seem reasonable for most hosts to require. So that's kind of like a personal thing based on what you feel is reasonable, but look at that and make that judgment as well. So like I said, I start off here And if I'm not sold on the host, I'm not even going to bother reviewing the rest of these questions. That's how all of these sections are. If one of them is like, nope, this isn't going to work, cool, you're done. You don't have to go through the rest of these questions. Otherwise, if everything with the host checks out, you feel comfortable, you like them, you can move on to seeing if you have the availability to even say yes before you go any further. So you're going to ask yourself questions like, do I have time to create a presentation by their due date, without it feeling forced or like this terrible obligation? You'll ask, will my content calendar allow me to do real promotion of this event? Again, we want to say yes to events where we can support the hosts and show up for them. Does your content calendar allow for promotion, or do you have something of your own going on at that time? Look at whether your team or yourself will have time to schedule that promotion. So if you don't want to have to do all the scheduling, make sure your team will have the capacity to do that. And then I also like to look at, will I have time to engage with attendees at the event? Because the more you can show up, the more you can engage, the more you're going to get out of it, and the more the host will, appreciate you as a speaker and want to have you back and share your name with other hosts as well. So look at if you'll have time to engage. If more than one of these are a no, it's probably not a great fit because you're not going to be able to show up for the host or for yourself. It's going to feel like an obligation. So if I know I'm not going to have room to promote or won't want to put this specific event in front of my audience, but absolutely everything else checks out, I'll let the host know that I won't be able to promote, and I let them make the decision. Hey, I'd love to be a part of it. I can't promote, so let me know, if you still want to be a part of it. Otherwise, here's someone else I recommend who might be able to, is how I usually present that. So if you align with the host, and you have the availability to really show up and do more than just create the bare minimum presentation, now let's see if the event is a good fit for you. So is it one that's worth your time based on what audience you want to connect with and what value you want to provide for them? So you can ask yourself questions like, is this audience one that I want to get in front of? If you don't want to be in front of this audience, you better not say yes to this event unless you're being paid up front. Also look at, do I value and agree with the topic and transformation of the event? Do you feel lit up by that? Is that something you're excited about? Then look at, can I provide a transformation to this audience? Again, looking at if the audience is a good fit for what you teach. And then last, is the topic I'm being pitched one that I love to talk about? So personally, I have 5-ish preset topics I'm willing to speak on. If anything is outside of those, I'm going to stop and think, okay, is this something I'm excited about? Is this something that's really going to provide a transformation to these people? It makes me take some extra time to stop and think if I am not used to talking about that topic. So if your responses to these questions related to the fit of the event aren't great, the event is probably going to end up being one you regret agreeing to because you don't feel aligned, especially if you're not being paid up front for it, because you won't benefit from participating any other way, which brings us to our next set of questions. So no matter how perfect everything is that we've already covered, if there's no way for you to benefit outside of exposure, I'm saying with air quotes, it's not worth your time unless the host is someone you really want to connect with. But even then, it's almost a matter of principle. They should set you up to benefit. That should be one of their goals as a host. So ask yourself questions like, can I connect with attendees outside of a pre-recorded presentation? Are there live panels or live sessions you can be a part of? Can you be chatting in the Facebook group and going live in there? How can you connect with attendees and make the most out of this? Could the audience turn into clients and customers for you? Is there a way for you to make that connection and have ongoing connections with them? Which kind of ties into, am I able to either make money and or collect leads? You should be able to do one of those things throughout the summit. Either make money through being paid up front or high affiliate commissions, or collect leads by pitching through your summit and, anything else the host wants to throw in. Really, I think you should be able to do both. And if the host says that you can't do one or the other, I would revisit the questions we had about the host and how much they value their speakers just to make sure, because you should be set up to benefit as a speaker throughout anything you participate in. So if you're happy with the opportunities the host has set up to make sure you benefit, we'll move on to the last and maybe most important section, which is your desire to participate. And I honestly shouldn't be preaching about this because I am terrible at saying no to things, like just because of how I feel. But can we stop saying yes to things that we don't want to do? Like, how silly is it that we started our businesses to do something we enjoyed, but then we feel obligated to agree to things we're not excited about? So I challenge you and myself to only say yes to something if you go through all those things, they check out, and then you truly want to participate. And then, yeah, I'll have to start taking my own advice here one day. But you can ask yourself questions like, is this something I'll enjoy? Like, not will I not hate it, but will I actually enjoy it? Like, look at the positive side. You can ask yourself, will I want to promote this? Like, is this something I'll feel good about promoting, or is it going to feel like an obligation? Look at, do I have a connection with the host that I want to support? For me, it's a lot harder to get into an event when I have no previous connection with the host. And then also ask yourself, am I okay saying yes to this if it means saying no to something else that could come up? Whether it's something like a launch you want to do with your business, something else you want to promote, and something else you get pitched for, if that comes up and you have to say no because of this, is that going to be okay? And those right there will give you your real answer if you weren't sure up to this point. And go with that. Go with what that gut feeling is telling you, even though I know saying no really stinks sometimes. So I know this was a lot, and it's probably way more thought than you've ever put into whether or not you'd speak at an event before. But I want to see more speakers who show the heck up for the events they agree to, both for the speaker's benefit and for the hosts. And none of us hosts want you to feel like you're obligated to participate. We want it to be fun for you. We want you to benefit. So before you say yes, look closely at the host, your availability, the fit, the likelihood that you'll benefit, and how much you truly want to participate. So your action step here is to save this list of questions for yourself. We'll have it for you in the show notes, and make it into a form you fill out before saying yes to speaking at an event. Both you and event hosts will thank you. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. For show notes and resources mentioned, head to summithosthangout.com/136. In the next episode, we'll talk about whether it's okay to require a certain email list size from your virtual summit speakers. So be sure to tune in for that. Like with anything, planning and hosting an online summit is a whole lot more fun when you're surrounded by other people who can get it. For a community of other summit hosts who can be alongside you to celebrate wins, share advice, and offer support, join us inside the free Summit Host Hangout Facebook group, and you can head to summithosthangout.com/community. I cannot wait to see you inside. Now go out and take action to plan, strategize, and launch your profitable online summit.